So, hi everyone. Thanks again for joining me. This is Whimsy, and again, I have an amazing guest. I gotta say, I am so excited every time you decide to join me on my channel. I don't do interviews usually because I always have such stress when I do interviews, but I always make an exception for you. And it was really hard for me. This is Chuck Dranfield for people who
Hi.
don't know. Welcome, Chuck. Good to have you back
Hi.
here.
Good to be here. When
Chuck
Sasha
Dranfield is an
wanted to join in.
amazing. He has an amazing cat, Sasha. But you
Yes.
might also know that he is an unbelievably amazing and powerful artist, and he's also a trance medium who channels people as he does the art. And so for that reason, I wanted to have you back and
Thank you.
just find out a little bit more about what you do, what it's like to be a trance medium, and how you really connect to your subjects. Some of them are rich and famous, some of them are unknown, some of them are strangers. I just really, I had trouble connecting with you after the last interview. We kept trying to meet, and you were working and painting,
Yes.
etc.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, did I chase him
A
off?
little busy over the holidays. Doing
You were
work for-
very busy doing art over the holidays. So how have you been? How have you been?
I've been doing great, hanging in there. Some commissions have been coming in, and I've
Yes.
been working to get those completed. I always love the process because it's a chance to get to meet people. By
Yeah.
that, I mean phone, FaceTime. I always like to discuss this with people when we're doing a portrait because I like to make it a team effort. I want people to know that they're part of this. And the more we talk, the better I feel that I can tap into that person's energy. Sometimes it's for another person. Like I just did a portrait of somebody's grandmother. That
Mm.
was, oh, it was just so much fun to do that because I was able to communicate with her energy while I was working on the portrait. And she had a few messages for me to give to her granddaughter, and that meant a lot to me too, that I could be a part of that. It was incredibly rewarding.
Now, the process where you connect with the person who has passed on, and in many cases, the person who's still alive, and I want to get into that as well today,
Yeah.
but how does it start for you? Like, say somebody commissions you to paint a picture of their grandmother, and you're connecting with the spirit, and you're getting information, and the grandmother's talking to you. How does that process take place for you?
Well, it's basically because I tend to work slowly when I'm doing a work of art. I spend a lot of time with the photograph. I may have mentioned to you before in one of my interviews that I can look into people's eyes. The eyes tell you everything you'd ever want to know about a person. I can feel their history. I can sense their emotions. I can sense what was taking place even in the moment that photograph was taken. And from there, it's like a gateway that brings me to the spirit. I don't try to force anything. Spirit communication is often very subtle, and it's a quiet thing. It's a gentle thing, and it flows with me as I'm working, as I'm painting, as I'm drawing, spending time with the photograph. I just begin to sense their energy, and I cannot help but hear them whispering in my ear like a muse.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's just a simple message, sometimes it's more profound, but it's almost impossible for it not to come through. And that plays a very big role for me in capturing, kind of, for want of a better way of saying it, lightning in a bottle, capturing their soul, capturing their energy, because I try to convey a lot of life in my portraits. I try to make them very natural and real. Sometimes when I do a portrait of someone who has passed away, it's almost like bringing them back to life
Hmm.
from taking that energy and capturing it and putting it into the canvas or the piece of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're in the process and you feel that doorway opening up, and you get closer and closer, and you really merge with the energy of the person that you are channeling, have you ever been surprised? Have you ever been shocked by some of the messages that come through?
Oh, I have. I'm trying to think of something right now, but certainly it's a whole cornucopia of things that will come through. More often than not, it's nothing profound. It's usually very simple, very basic. They're very appreciative of the portrait, the time. I know with my mother, I've had messages come through. My mother and I had a lot of problems growing up.
Yeah.
It was a complicated relationship. And I keep hearing her just saying, I'm sorry. I know I failed you. I think that surprised me to actually hear that. I know that I failed you. Meaning, it's forgiven on my part and there's love between us, but it was just her being very honest. I know I let you down. I know I failed you. I want to make it up to you in some way. I don't know how, but I can. So I think that surprised me a bit.
That's beautiful.
That, but that was beautiful.
And did you feel that?
I have a feeling.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. No.
My next question was, do you feel that when you get those types of, just even though that was simple, you say that's not profound, but actually I disagree. I think that's very profound. Do you ever feel like when you get those types of communications for the person who you're painting for, if they have unresolved issues with a parent or a child or a family member or a loved one, do you ever feel like, wow, this person really needed to hear that, and it creates a closure for them? Because I think that's really one of the things.
Oh, yes. Like the person I did the portrait of her grandmother. I want to respect her privacy, so I won't say what it was. But it was a definite message she needed to hear. And it was actually a message that I did not understand. I just heard. So when I spoke to her on the phone, I said, I don't know what this means, but this is what I kept hearing her say. And she just said, oh, totally understood. Totally got it. I don't want to violate her privacy by saying what it was, but to her, it made perfect sense. And that confirmed that I was definitely hearing her grandmother. Wow. And that was incredibly rewarding for me. That meant the world that I could be a facilitator. Oh, yes. Was that your Christmas or your birthday gift a few years ago? I'm trying to remember.
I think it might have been for my birthday. I think I had turned 55 or something like that. And I was feeling quite down, and you were determined to make me feel beautiful. But you also channel and you do spirit work for people who are alive. I was alive when you painted this, and I loved some of the feedback you gave me about just the love and the compassion and the positive.
Well, that was just it. I
was feeling rather down that day.
I know you were. And of course, I'm a little biased here because I've known you so well for so many years now. So, I'm hesitant to say I channeled because I already knew this about you, but I could honestly feel your tremendous compassion, your tremendous empathy, your love, your humility. All of that could not help but come through as I was drawing you. And I hope that comes through in the eyes there.
Yes, I love
it. And of course, I had to put your beloved Mila because I love Mila also.
So many people have painted her. I got to know, she looks so mischievous, like she's about to strike. Did you pick up anything about Mila when you did that?
I just picked up Mila is very much her own cat. She's like a little above all of this, but okay, I will go along with posing for you. I will go along with letting you draw me, but just for a while, okay?
Yeah, that is Mila, and she understands.
She loves you so much.
I love her. It's funny because she knows what we do. She knows we go live. I'll record something and then she'll go back and watch it. And sometimes she gets it. And she spends a lot of time on YouTube.
Well, Sasha is right here below me, sitting in my lap. She may jump up again.
Yeah, great cat. Now, switching gears a little bit, I know that many of the channeled works you have done have been for famous actors as well. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, that's my passion. My great dream when I moved out to LA was to be an actor. That didn't go anywhere, but that was my dream for a long time. But growing up, I was always fascinated with old Hollywood of the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. I would read every book I could get my hands on. I would read biographies, autobiographies. So I always felt a kinship with these old stars. They felt like my friends when I was growing up. So I've always gravitated to doing portraits of them. That, yes, Judy Garland is right behind you.
Yeah.
I love to do old star portraits, and I love that time I have because they very much communicate with me.
Yeah.
They very much communicate
So,
because, we're all equal. Maybe
right. Right.
our time on Earth, they're a little above it all. There's quote unquote stars and all, but in the scheme of the universe, we're all equal souls. And I think these are a lot of stars that have perhaps been forgotten about. They don't get called upon as much. So they just love it when somebody remembers them, acknowledges them, wants to spend time, shall I say, bringing them back to life again.
Yeah, beautiful. There's definitely a teaching in many of the African traditions, like the Yoruba and the Igbo. I was an anthropology major, where they talk about the importance of honoring our ancestors and our elders, like the people that have inspired us, because
Yeah.
they live through us. And this is a way of allowing them to continue on.
Yes,
Can we
because
talk
their
Go ahead.
spirits are very much alive, very much. They're very much present. And I find their personalities are still very much intact.
Right. Can we talk about Judy Garland a little bit? Because,
Of
oh my gosh,
course,
I was such a
you
huge
and I both,
fan growing up. She really
both had
impacted
experiences.
my voice, my trembla,
Yes.
how I use my voice. Just tell us a little bit about how you first made
Well,
contact with her, and
well,
yeah, tell us.
I know that it was probably as a child. I was, of course, a childhood fan, Wizard of Oz and so forth, as most of us were. But it was in my teenage years, I began reading biographies of her and beginning to really know the complexity of this amazing woman. But I think my first experience actually channeling her, it was my sophomore year of college. And I was auditioning for some of the college plays. They wouldn't let us just audition for one thing. We had to audition for a whole group of plays. And one of those was a musical. Well, I had never sung in my life. I never thought of myself as a singer, but I just prepared a little thing. I think it was What I Did for Love from Chorus Line. And I just stood up there and started singing. I could at least stay in key and carry a tune. But when I got up to audition, all of a sudden this powerful vibrato came out of my throat. I was like, where the hell did that come from? But it was gorgeous. It came out of me, and I actually got a call back for the musical. Before they called me back for the musical, and I had never sung like that before in my life, and probably never since. But I later realized it was Judy. It was that same vibrato, that warmth, that heart that she had. I knew it was her. Just as you later told me, Judy had given you your
Yes, my
vibe.
vibrato comes from her. And when I was also completely in love with Judy Garland and just learned all the songs from
Oh,
all the musicals. And I really, my vibrato came out right around that time.
what I
I think
love
she
that.
really does. Anyone that loves her, I think spiritually, she really, as a spirit, I think of her as someone that really helps that bring out the voice.
Well, I know that many of these stars, Judy, Marilyn Monroe, Lucille Ball, they help fledgling actors and performers. That's like part of their work in the spirit world. That much I know. I've had that confirmed several times. But Judy came through for me in that audition. But she's just always touched me deeply. You see, she was a magnificent actress. If the woman couldn't have sung a note, she would have been one of the greatest actresses of the 20th century. And so it was a marriage of the greatest voice and the greatest actress together. That's what made her so electrifying and thrilling. I've watched her sometimes where, just literally hair stand up on my arm. You get goosebumps. She's so thrilling. And, I once met her third husband, Sid Luft.
Hmm.
And the strange thing was he was compelled to talk to me for almost an hour. Now, I don't know if that was Judy saying, come on, Sid, talk to the guy for a while or what, but he just sensed my sincerity and started talking to me about Judy and opening up and telling me personal stories. I'm like, this is amazing.
It happens to you all the time where you will
It
channel
does
a
happen to me a lot.
celebrity, you will paint them, you will become one with them, and then all of a sudden they will start,
Yes.
the deceased celebrity starts getting you to hang out with their ex-husbands and stuff.
Well,
And friends.
exactly. Like I shared with you,
You consider,
Lucille
by
Ball,
the way.
after she died, I have had so many people in her life, her son, her daughter, her husband, Gary Morton, people who worked with her, people worked on I Love Lucy, her personal friends. All of a sudden, all these people started coming
Yeah,
into my,
yeah.
well, so I think it was a little bit like that with Sid Luft. There was just something, he was, it's like he needed to talk to me, like he was being compelled. It
Wow.
was so profound. And, here's the biggest thing I got from Sid Luft. He was still in love with Judy. You could see it in his eyes. It's like he was so grateful to have someone to talk to about her and really convey that side that I could see he didn't give to too many people. I took that as a great honor.
Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful. And when you painted her, and I know you
Yeah.
talked about you focus on the eyes, and then through the
Oh, yes,
you become one with the target, right?
I
Similar
do.
to
I do.
HCRV. So, what did you feel as you connected with her?
Well,
Painted.
I
I
did
am the
that one for
original.
you because you
Thank you so
love her
much.
so much.
I'm
Because
so grateful.
I wanted to give you a gift of gratitude for all the things you had
This
done
means
for
a lot
me
to me.
at that time. So that's why I thought, well, Judy Garland is perfect for you. And that was done from a very blurry little black and white picture I found on the internet from a TV show she did in the 50s. And it was full length, but I cropped it because I loved the way she had her hands up and she was in her joy
Mm.
of performing. You could just see like she was home. We all have that spiritual center that's home for us. It's where we belong. It's where we're our truest self. And I saw that in that image. That's what I sensed. So that's what I latched onto as I did that portrait for you and
Wow.
tried my best to convey that.
Oh,
I hope I
thank
did.
you so much. I just love.
Oh, yes, it was my pleasure for you.
Now, one of the portraits I've wanted to ask you about, and I think in some way I think it's the most beautiful work you've ever done. But
It's
it's
one of
all
my favorite
yeah,
paintings.
it's also one of the most. It also disturbs me is the painting you did of
It
Ella
was,
Fitzgerald. Can we
it
talk
was
a little
meant
bit
to be a,
about that?
yes, yes. Okay, I wanted to do a portrait of Ella Fitzgerald for a long time. I wanted to do it as a companion piece to a painting I did of Billie Holiday. Ella Fitzgerald, and after we just talked about Judy, how much I love her, I'd have to say Ella Fitzgerald is my all-time favorite singer. To me, she came the closest to having the perfect voice, if anybody ever could reach that level of perfection. I thought she did it. I very much wanted to do a traditional canvas painting of her. And I was looking through the internet for reference material and going through jazz pictures and things. And they just were not resonating with me for some reason. And then I found the picture of her that it was in 1955 in, I think it was Dallas. It was in Texas. I hope I'm not saying this incorrectly. I think it was Dallas, Texas. She was put in jail for singing to a non-segregated audience. I was like, oh my God. And when I saw the photo of this great, great woman, and there she is in her beautiful gown, and she's got her mink stole and her jewels, and she's sitting there in this jail cell, and she looks so despondent and so heartbroken. Well, it just made me cry. I cried and cried, and I looked at that photo, and I put her aside, and I started looking at the pictures, and I could hear Ella go, no, that's the one I want you to paint. I want you to paint that one. That's the portrait I want you to do of me. And I think I mentioned before that souls many times want me to encode something into an illustration where I don't always understand it myself. I just act like the vehicle. Like I said to you about Mother Teresa, which she said, I'm just a pencil in God's hands. Well, I'm a paintbrush in God's hands or in these souls' hands. And I just let them say whatever they want to say. So I spent about a month on that painting. I tend to paint slowly, very deliberately. That painting was particularly difficult because of those dresses. Like one of the women had this taffeta skirt. Oh my God, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to paint.
Wow.
But aside from that, it was getting the emotion. That's the most important thing ever. You don't have to be technically perfect. You can have imperfections, but you damn well better get that emotion right. And I've always felt like eyes, for the same reason, are non-negotiable. You've got to get those right. So I knew the emotional truth was essential. And I kept just feeling her sorrow and her bewilderment. Ella was a very good soul. She was, she very earnest, very good. She approached like that way. So I could see that she was even bewildered, like, what have I done? What have I done wrong? Why am I here? And so that's what I was feeling without consciously putting into the painting. I just let all of that flow. And I guess the audience, the viewers can be the judge as to whether I captured it or not.
Oh, you did. It's a
It's
very
one of my
powerful piece. It's my favorite piece that you've ever done.
I think it is
And
for
I
myself.
think,
I need to do more things like that.
right, and I think it evokes for us. It's a stark look at the horrors of prejudice.
Yes, and that's why
The insanity of it.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thank you. I thank you for painting.
Thank you.
And I thank you for
My honor.
giving that to the world.
I told you my acting teacher, Dee Wallace, always said to us before we would do a scene, she said, remember, you're giving people a gift. When you're giving a performance, you're giving a gift. I think the same thing for a writer, a singer, me as an artist. We are giving a gift. And that's the attitude we should always have. Just like what you do, you give a gift to people every time. I think I love to think of it that way.
Mm-hmm. So before we close today, I just have one more person, and that's Billie Holiday, who I also love. And
yes.
You did mention her. Can you talk a little bit about
yeah.
what it was like to paint her? And a lot of people say there was the side of her that was the performer, and then there was the side that not many people saw, that she really lived a compartmentalized life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that painting came about in 1991. It was Christmas Eve, and I had the flu. And I couldn't do anything for Christmas. And I went down to my mailbox, and there was this beautiful box CD set that my sister sent me as a Christmas gift. It was, of course, the complete deck of record years for Billie Holiday. And, I was familiar with her, of course, but I was homebound, not feeling well. I put the CDs on, and I must have played them over and over and over that night. I was so haunted and so mesmerized, moved, and I knew as soon as I was able, I had to start a painting of her. And that painting, I just spent, that took about a month to do. And I spent the entire month just listening to those CDs over and over while I painted her. And again, just letting her energy come through, whatever it was supposed to be, whether I understood it or not. I'm trying to remember, what was I feeling? Because this was literally 30 years ago. It was 30 years ago this month I was painting it. I know I was getting her pride, her great pride. She was a very proud woman. She was, as we well know, she was held back. She was treated very unfairly. This magnificent talent. She was like a great queen, a great empress. And she was being treated like a peasant being thrown into jails. We know the stories of when she was imprisoned for over a year for, was it marijuana possession, heroin possession? I'd have to look back on that, but it was just grotesque what they did to her, where she was abused. Even when she was dying on her deathbed in the hospital, she was under house arrest. And they had her handcuffed to her bed. And they took away her record player and everything, any kind of luxury. And they had a policeman standing guard outside the door while she was dying. And she was only 44 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I kept getting, as I painted her, I'm remembering just her great regal dignity and her pride. And that's very much in her soul. And I think maybe that was, I say think because I'm trying to remember 30 years ago, but I'm remembering that the dignity, the pride, and that's what she wanted to say. This is who I am. I'm powerful. I'm regal. Don't forget that.
Yes.
And look what that woman could do. You know, I think I read she only had a vocal range of 1 octave, 12 notes. And when you look at what that woman could do with 12 notes, because, you know, she wasn't technically the greatest singer at all. This gets back to what I was saying about art. It doesn't have to be technically perfect, but if the emotion is there, by God, that's all you need. And Billie Holiday had the emotion. She could really move you. She moved me. Still does.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you for asking about that.
Well, thank you for coming in today and talking with
me. Thank you, Whimsy. Thank you.
Now,
I'm always so grateful.
Yes, and if people want to have a painting commissioned for a family or for themselves, a spirit painting done, how do they reach you? How do they reach you?
They can reach me on my website, just chuckdranfield.com. It's easy on there. There's a section on there about, and that will give all my contact info. You can send me an email. My phone number's there. You can call me. I
can also speak to you when they're booking readings because you're also
that's true.
You're also a physician's assistant, so that's
right. So they can even reach me through you. They can. If they need me.
That's
not to
true.
piggyback on you, Whimsy, but if they want to.
I will connect you to Chuck. Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Whimsy. I love you. And all the people out there, thank you for all your beautiful messages to me. They mean the world. I'm very touched.
Well, you got to get a YouTube channel. You got to give your information and sign up so that you can comment on all those great comments.
Yes, I do. I do need to do that.
And you promise you're going to come back again because my audience loves you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I promise.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.